Hello everyone, welcome to JPA Programming Solutions. So in last video we have seen how to connect our Spring Boot application with the MySql database. Now in today's video we will see how we can perform the CRUD operations. Okay, let's suppose here we have taken the entity as an employee. Okay, so now in today's video we will see how we can perform the CRUD operations on this employee entity. CRUD operations means what? We will see how we can create the employee and save in the database, how we can delete the employee, or maybe how we can find the employee based on ID or based on name, how we can update the employee. Okay, so all of these operations we are going to see in today's video. But before that, first you need to watch the previous video where we have seen how to connect the Spring Boot application to the MySql database. So I will give the link in the description box. First go to that link, watch that video, create your Spring Boot application and connect that with the MySql. Once your connection is done successfully, then come to this video and start with your CRUD operations. Okay, so now let's start with our video. Very first, let's just revise what are the things we did in the last session. Okay, so see here, I just created one Spring Boot application. Okay, and inside this Spring Boot application, if I open the pom.xml file, you will see that we have added one dependency, Spring Boot starter data JPA, because this is a data JPA project. Okay, now we want to connect this project with the MySql, because all the data we will store in the MySql database. For that, I have added one more dependency, which is MySql connector. Okay, so only these two dependencies we have added, and this test dependency will be default dependency. Okay, now let's go to the application.properties file and see here what are the thing I have configured. Very first, I have configured the URL. Okay, so this will be my URL and this is my database name, employee DB. Okay, so you can add your database name. After that, what will be the username and what will be the password? Okay, so you can just update your username and password for your database. Then I have written one more configuration, which is Spring JPA Hibernate DDL Auto, and here I have mentioned it as a create. What is the meaning of this? So meaning of this is to create the queries automatically. Okay, so here we have actually two options. One is create and another is update. Okay, so what is the difference between create and update? Let's suppose if I am writing here create. Okay, and in my employee entity, if you see, I have used some annotations like @entity, @table, @id, then @generated value, right? So when we are writing these annotations, @entity, then @table, and when we are providing the table name, we are creating the columns. That time in the database, you don't have to create the table by yourself. Okay, so Spring will create the table for you. Okay, now when here we are not creating the table by ourselves, right? So when you are writing here create, that time what will happen? In this employee entity, you have given the table name as a employees. So very first it will check if you have any table in your employee database as a employees. Okay, if you have any table with the name employees, then first it will drop that table when you are writing create, and again it will create the fresh table. Okay, but when you write here update, that time what will happen? If the table already created, then it will not drop that table, it will just update it. Okay, so this is the difference between create and update. Create means if already the table is exist, then it will just drop that table and create the new table again. But in the update, it will not drop it. Okay, it will just keep updating on the same table. Okay, now This is one property we have, and after that I have added one more property, which is spring jpa.showSQL, which means when I run this project, that time I want to see what are the queries generated by Hibernate. So in the console I want to see what are the queries generated by the Hibernate. Okay, so for that I have written here show SQL as a true. Okay, so these are some properties which we have configured. I have explained all of this in the last session as well, so just go there, watch that video and complete your assignment. Okay, now let's just come here, okay, and start with today's task. So today what we want to do, we want to perform the CRUD operations using data JPA. Okay, so see here, already if I just execute this project, let me just save and execute. Let's just run the project here. Now our project is started. Okay, so see here what it is saying: Hibernate, alter table employees, modify column salary float. Just a minute, I think I made some changes here. Let's just go here in the application.properties. Okay, just make it as a create. Okay, now save and execute the program. Now what will happen, a fresh table will get created here. Whatever was the existing table, that will just drop. See here in the console you will able to see. Okay, see here it is dropping the table if exist. Which table? Employees. So this table we have mentioned here in our employee entity. See here the table name I have given as a employees. Okay, now here the table is dropped and newly the table got created. Now if I go to the MySQL workbench, see here in our employee DB I have one table employees. Okay, and here if I just run this query, select star from employee, you will see that we don't have any data here. Okay, so now we want to create a new employee and we want to store that employee in this employees table. Okay, so let's just go to our STS here. Let me just minimize this. Okay, so this is the entity we already have. Now what we need to do, we want to create the employee and store that in the database, right? And for that we are going to use the Spring Data JPA. Okay, so now see here I just need to create one more interface. So let me just create new interface, and here I will just give the package name as a employee repository. Okay, so in com.springdatajpa.employee repository package, I want to create one interface and name of the interface will be employee repository. Okay, so this is my employee repository. Let's just click on the finish and here my employee repository got created. Okay, now when we use the data JPA, that time we don't have to write the implementation for our CRUD operations. Only thing you need to do is here you just have to write extends and you can just use JPA repository. See here this JPA repository. You can make use of this interface. JPA repository is also an interface. Okay, and here I can just provide my entity name. So entity name is employee. So let me just write here employee, and then here you have to pass the data type of your primary key. And if we go to the employee class, see here in this employee we have the ID as our entity. Okay, and type of ID is integer. So let's just go here and write integer. Okay, so now my employee repository is created and this employee repository is extending to the JPA repository. Now if you go to the JPA repository, see here this JPA repository is extending to the ListCRUD repository. And if we go to the ListCRUD repository, this repository is extending to your CRUD repository. Now let's go to the CRUD repository. Now see, from the name itself we can understand that CRUD repository is meant to perform the CRUD operations. CRUD means what? Create, read, update and delete. Okay, so all of these operations will be performed by using this CRUD repository. And see here, they have different methods. If you see, they have the save method. Okay, so you just have to make use of this method. Even you don't have to provide the implementation. Automatically implementation will get created, okay, by this CRUD repository. See here, CRUD repository is having a save method, and here you need to pass the entity. Okay, so now if I go to my repository, save this and just go here in our main method. Okay, so where is the main method? This one. See, here we will just perform the CRUD operations. Okay, so very first let me just do here implements command line runner. So when I implement the command line runner interface, I need to implement the method run. Okay, so now inside this run method, what I will do, I will just create one employee and then we will store that in our database. Okay, so very first let's create the employee. Employee emp is equal to new employee. Okay, now we can just set the details. Employee dot set name. Okay, and maybe the employee name is Sheetal. Then emp dot set salary, and let's just set the salary as 78,000. Okay, so this is the data for the employee name and employee salary, and ID will get generated automatically. Okay, so now I have one employee created. Now I want to store this employee in our employee database. Okay, so for that what we have to do, we have to use our repository. So I have created one repository, right? Employee repository. Okay, so let me just auto wire this. So employee repository, and here maybe I can write emp repo. Okay, and let me just write here @auto wired. Okay, now by using this employee repository we can perform different CRUD operations. Okay, so let me just come here and write emp repo. Okay, so actually this should be emp repo this way. Okay, now emp repo dot, if I just do the dot, see here we are getting different methods. Okay, and all of these methods are coming from the JPA repository interface. Okay, now what I want to do here, I just want to save this employee in my database, right? So for that what I can write here, emp repo dot save. If you see here we have different save methods. Okay, so now the first save method is accepting one entity. Our entity is an employee. Okay, so now I want to save the employee, and this save method is coming from the CRUD repository. Okay, so let me just use this method, and here we need to pass which entity you want to save. So I want to save the employee, so I will pass the employee here. Okay, so now what will happen, from this employee repo we have used the save method and we have passed the employee. Okay, so now if I just save and execute this program, then this employee whatever we have created will get saved in the database. See here, let me just execute this program. See, in the console also you will able to see what happened here. See, first the table is dropped. Okay, because we in the properties we have written here create. Okay, so when we are returning the create, then what will happen, if the table is already exist, it will delete that table. Okay, then it is creating new table, and after that what we did here, we just saved one employee entity. Okay, so here I have created the employee and I have saved it. Okay, so now if you see here, what Hibernate did, Hibernate just hit one insert query, and here it is passing name and salary. Okay, so name will get the value as a Sheetal and salary will get the value as a 78,000. Okay, and now this record will get inserted in our employees table. Now if we go to the database here and if I hit this query, you will see that one record is inserted here. See, the ID is 1, salary is 78,000 and name is Sheetal. Okay, so this way we can create the employee and store it in the database. Now let's just go here. Okay, I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so now see, if you want to insert or save a single employee, then you can use the save method. But let's suppose if you have the multiple employees, right? Let's suppose here itself I have one more employee. Let me create employee emp2 we can give, because this is our employee 1. Let me just give the name as a employee 1. Okay, so this is my employee 1 and I have created one more employee which is employee 2. So new employee, and now here let's just set some more details. Okay, so actually this should be the employee class. Okay, so now emp2 dot set name, and here maybe we can give the employee name as a ABC. Okay, and then emp2 dot set salary, and let's give the salary here as a 10,000. Okay, so now I have this employee 1, then employee 2, and let me just create one more employee here, maybe employee emp3 is equal to new employee, right? And now let me just set some details. Employee 3 dot set name, and the name will be maybe Max, and then emp3 dot set salary, and the salary will be 45,000. Okay, so now if you see, I have 3 employees. Okay, and I want to store all of this detail in our database. Okay, so for that what I will be doing, very first I need to, if you just see here, maybe see employee repo dot save. If you see here, I have one method save which is taking one entity, and we have seen how to save the one employee data here by using the save method. Okay, but now if we want to save all this employee, then we have another method which is save all. Okay, now this save all method will take the list. Okay, so now very first let me just create here one list. Okay, so I can just write list of employees. List, first need to import the list from java.util, and then this list will be of employees. Okay, so now I can write here all employees. Okay, and here I can use arrays dot as list method, and here I will pass all these employees. So emp1, then emp2 and emp3. Now what will happen, all these employees now stored in the all employees list. Okay, now I want to save all of this employee in the database, so I will use here save all method, and inside this save all method I will pass this all employees list. Okay, or maybe here I can give the name as list of employees, right? I want to store this list of employees in our database. Okay, so what we did here, only thing, we have created 3 employees. We want to store all of these 3 employees in the database. So for that, very first I created one list. Inside this list I have added all the employees, and now to store all these employees I have used save all method, and inside the save all method I have passed list of the employees. Okay, now if I save this, okay, and execute this project, see here what will happen now? We will get 3 employees in the database. See here in the console also, you will see 3 insert statements. See here, you will see 3 insert statements. Okay, and now if I go to the database and just hit the same query, you will see 3 employees inserted in the database. See here, Sheetal, ABC and Max. Okay, now we know that how to save a single employee and how to save a multiple employees. Okay, now let's go ahead and see how we can get the particular employee from the database. Okay, for example, let's suppose here we have 3 employees, right? Now I just want to get the one employee. Okay, so I want to get the employee based on ID. Okay, so how we can do that? For that, what I can do, emp repo dot, to get the employee based on ID, we have the method find by ID. See here, we have one method which is find by ID, and this method is taking integer as an argument. See here, find by ID. Now here I need to pass the ID of the employee which I want to fetch. Let's suppose I want to fetch the employee. If you see in the database, I have the employee whose ID is 2. Okay, so I just want to fetch the details of this ABC employee. Okay, so let's just go here and pass the employee ID as a 2. Now what will happen? This find by ID method will fetch the details of the employee whose ID is 2. Okay, now I want to store that detail, or maybe I will just create here a variable. Okay, and maybe I can write here employee. Okay, so I got the employee here. Now I just want to print this employee, so maybe we can write here sysout employee dot get. Okay, because see here, this find by ID is returning us the optional, right? And I want to print the employee, so from this optional I just get the employee, and that employee I will print here. Now if I save, what will happen? The employee whose ID is 2 will get printed here. Okay, so let me just execute the program again. See in the console, you will see the employee whose ID is 2. See here, what happened? First employee inserted, Hibernate inserted 3 records. After that, one select query got heated here. See how select ID name salary from employee where the employee ID is equal to, and this question mark will replaced with the ID which we have passed here. I have passed here the ID as a 2, so here it will just replace with 2. And if you see here, we have received the detail of the employee whose ID is 2. See here, employee ID is 2 and name is ABC, salary 10,000. Okay, so this way you can receive or you can fetch the details of the employee based on ID. Okay, so we are done with the save and find by ID operation. Now let's suppose what I want to update the employee details. Okay, for example, let's suppose here itself, if I just remove this one, okay, see what we are doing, employee repo dot find by ID. So here I got the details of the employee whose ID is 2. Okay, now if we go to this find by ID method, you will see that this find by ID method is returning the optional, right? So let's just go here. Okay, so I will just write maybe dot get. Now what will happen? This method will return us the optional, and from this optional we want the employee. That's the reason I have written here get. Now if I create the variable, assign a statement to local variable, see here I got the employee. Okay, now let me just okay, So here I got the employee whose ID is 2. Right, now I want to update the details of this employee. Okay, so see here what I will be doing. To update the details of the particular employee, first you need to fetch that employee details. Okay, I want to update the employee whose ID is 2. So very first I will just get that employee. Once I got the employee, then I can update the details. So I can write here maybe employee dot set name. Okay, so for this employee whose ID is 2, you can see the name is ABC. Okay, but now let's suppose instead of ABC I just want to update the name here. I will write here maybe Seema. Okay, so now this employee whose ID is 2 will get updated with the Seema as a name. Okay, and even let's just update the salary also. So employee dot set salary. See here, currently the salary is 10,000. Let me just increase the salary of this employee to 25,000. Okay, so now we have updated the name and also we have updated the salary. Once you set this detail, you need to write emp repo dot save, and here you have to pass which employee you have updated. So I have updated this employee, so I will pass here. Okay, and maybe after that I can just write sysout updated. Okay, save and execute this program again. You will see that now this employee details will get updated. Okay, so let's just see in the console. See here what happened. First this 3 employees inserted. After that the employee whose ID is 2, we have fetched the detail, and then we have updated the employee here. See here, update query, update the employee. We are setting the name and salary, where ID will be this one, the one which we have passed here. We have passed 2 as a ID. Okay, now let's just go to the database and see is our details updated or not. See here, if you see here, for the ID 2, the salary is updated to 25,000 and name is updated to Seema. Previously the name was ABC, now it's updated to Seema. Okay, so this way we can update the details of the particular employee. How we did it? Very simple. First we need to fetch the employee whose ID you want to update. After that you will set the name and salary, or maybe the details which you want to update, and once you update it, you just need to save that employee. Okay, so this way we can save the employee, we can get the employee based on the ID, and then we can update it. Now only one operation is remaining, which is delete the employee. Okay, so now let's suppose what I want to do. Let me just remove this one. Here we got the employee whose ID is 2, right? Or maybe let's take the employee whose ID is 3. Okay, and now I want to delete the employee. So same way, see, when we want to delete the employee, you should know which employee you want to delete. So I want to delete the employee whose ID is 3. That's the reason first I have fetched the details of the employee whose ID is 3. And after that I want to delete that employee from the database. Okay, so how we can do that? Very simple. You can use the repository emp repo dot delete. Okay, and now in this delete method you have to pass which employee you want to delete. Okay, so here I have passed the employee details which I want to delete, and once the delete operation is done, let me just print here sysout deleted. Save and run the project again. You will see that this employee details will get deleted from the database. Okay, so see here, see, very first inserted the employee, then select the fetch query is hit, and after that one more query is there, which is delete from the employee where id is equal to question mark. So here the id will be replaced with this id. See here I have passed 3 as a id, so here the employee will get deleted whose id is 3. If we go to the database, okay, see here currently we have 1 2 3, but now if I just rerun the query, you will see that one employee is deleted whose id is 3. Okay, so currently I just have 1 and 2 as a employees present in my database. Okay, so see, this way we have performed 4 operations. Very first, create the employee and save this in the database. After that, we have fetched the detail of the employee based on id, and then we updated the details of the employee. And after that, if you want to delete the particular employee, then you can delete it by using the delete method. Even if you want to delete all the employees, then what you can do, here you have one method, see here, delete all. If you use this delete all method, what will happen, all the employees present in your database will get deleted. If I save and rerun the project again, you will see that all the employees will get deleted from the database. See in the console also, see here, delete from the employee where id, three times this query, delete query I can see. Okay, which means we have 3 records in the database and all of those records are deleted. If we go to the db and if I hit the query, see here I don't have any record here, which means all the records are deleted from your table. Okay, so if you want to delete all the records, you can just use this query, delete all, sorry, this method, delete all. Okay, so this way we have performed all CRUD operations. Very important thing which you need to know is that we are using this repository. We just created one interface, employee repository, and we have extended it with the JPA repository. Okay, even instead of JPA repository, you can here write this one also, the CRUD repository, maybe CRUD repository. Okay, so instead of JPA repository, if you want to write the CRUD repository, then you will able to write here, because CRUD repository is specific to CRUD operations. Okay, and JPA repository have some more additional functionality. Okay, anyways, even if you are writing here JPA repository, internally it is extending to CRUD repository itself. Okay, so there will not be any issue. I hope each and everything is clear to everyone. In case you have any questions, just put that question in the comment section and maybe I will reply to your questions. While doing this case study, whatever we have learned today, if you are getting some errors, exceptions, you can just mention in the comment section, or you can connect me with the email address whatever I have given in the description box. Okay, that's it for today's video. If you like this video, please share with your friends and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you.